0517 local time. Steel trembles beneath the flight deck as the carrier moves through calm water at a steady pace. No swell, no storm, only a long gray horizon and the muted mechanical pulse of a ship that never truly rests. On the bridge, not a word is spoken. Inside the Combat Information Center, the first tone cuts through the silence. It is not loud or dramatic, only exact. New surface contact, then another, then 6 more, 8 in total. The radar display tightens. Symbols begin to appear across the screen in a wide arc, spread out, moving fast, far too fast to be random. Their approach is clean, deliberate, controlled. The watch officer leans in, eyes fixed on the bearing data. No one reaches for a microphone. No one wastes time with questions. Condition 3 is set without ceremony. Critical stations are manned. Doors lock. Hatches are secured. On the flight deck, motion stops instantly. A tow tractor halts in place. A yellow shirt raises one hand and leaves it hanging there, waiting for the next signal. Aircraft sit armed and still, pointed forward, their canopies catching the pale light of early morning. In CIC, the range keeps dropping. 30 nautical miles, 28, 26. All 8 surface contacts have crossed into the outer surveillance ring. Their speed is identical, 27 knots, steady. Their spacing is disciplined. This is not civilian traffic, and it is not an accident. It is formation movement. Track numbers refresh automatically. One contact edges slightly left, another slips slightly right. The arc tightens, not a direct approach, a net. The carrier does not alter course. Speed remains unchanged. Heading stays steady. No evasive action. At a second console, an operator runs identification filters. As the contacts draw closer, hull shapes begin to form, harsh silhouettes. Tall superstructures, sensor masts that do not belong to patrol boats or support vessels. The room stays quiet while the system finishes the process. Then the identification appears across the display. Russian Navy. 8 warships. No radio traffic follows the confirmation, no challenge, no broadcast. The ships continue closing in silence, their wakes cutting sharp white lines across the blue water. On the bridge, the captain watches the horizon through reinforced glass. He does not raise his voice. He does not have to. The ship is already responding exactly the way it was built to respond. Below, the 5-inch gun mount turns a few degrees. Not enough to threaten, just enough to be noticed. Just enough to send a message. Range falls to 21 nautical miles. One Russian ship adds 2 knots. Another shifts inward by half a degree. The formation starts to reveal its shape. 2 ships forward, 6 behind, angled in a way that slowly compresses the space around the carrier. This is not shadowing. This is convergence. The carrier's escorts keep their positions off the beam, spread wide and silent. No flares, no active fire control radar. Every move remains measured. Every action remains controlled. Inside CIC, the system calculates closest point of approach. Too close. At this distance, an error becomes a collision. A collision becomes an incident. And an incident can become something much larger. Still, no radio calls. Now the Russian ships are close enough for visual confirmation. Gray hulls, naval ensigns snapping in the wind. Deck crews visible as tiny figures against steel. Weapons uncovered but not manned. Intent shown without an open threat. The carrier does not slow. Flight operations are paused, not ended. Every move can still be reversed. Every option remains available. Below deck, a helicopter crew straps in and waits. Rotors folded, ready for a green light that has not come. Range, 16 nautical miles. The arc tightens again. 2 Russian ships angle ahead of the carrier's bow. 4 hold the flanks. 2 remain just off the stern, maintaining pressure. 8 warships, 1 carrier, no shouting. No sirens, only streams of data, logged and time-stamped. Every bearing change recorded, every adjustment preserved. This is the kind of moment where posture matters more than firepower. The carrier stays on course. The sea remains calm, and the 8 warships continue to close in, not to strike, not to call out, but to find out who reacts first. The distance keeps shrinking. 15 nautical miles, 14, 13. The Russian formation becomes even sharper as the gap narrows. What began as a loose arc is now pure geometry, calculated, practiced, deliberate. 2 lead ships move ahead on diverging angles, not to cut across the carrier's bow, but to reduce its room to maneuver. The other 6 slide into place behind them, evenly spaced, perfectly matched in speed. This is not an escort. This is containment. Inside the Combat Information Center, track histories continue to scroll automatically. Every correction in course is captured. Every change in speed is marked down to the exact second. The system does not guess. It simply records. The carrier stays at 20 knots. No deviation, no weaving, no sudden move. A junior watchstander states what everyone already understands, his tone flat and controlled. The contacts are splitting into two elements. No one answers. No one needs to. The screen has already made it clear. On the bridge, the horizon looks the same as ever. Blue water, clear sky. Nothing in view suggests the situation is escalating. But beneath that calm surface, the tactical picture is tightening with every passing minute. 12 nautical miles. One Russian warship on the starboard side edges slightly ahead of the formation. Its bow wave thickens as it adds speed. Not enough to provoke, just enough to apply pressure. A matching move comes from the port side, keeping the carrier centered. A corridor is taking shape, narrow and intentional. The carrier's escorts make subtle station changes, widening their arcs without moving in. They do not confront the Russian ships. They do not fall back. They stay exactly where doctrine places them. Visible, armed, silent. No fire control radar goes active. No warning flares streak into the sky. The 5-inch gun stays offset, a signal without becoming a threat. Range drops to 10 nautical miles. At this distance, crews on opposing bridges can make out faces. Binoculars rise. Sailors gather near the rails, watching a vessel larger than anything around it. Still, there is no radio traffic. The Russian ships hold their silence, and that silence is as deliberate as the formation itself. It conceals intent while increasing pressure. It leaves everything open to interpretation. Inside CIC, the electronic warfare console flickers briefly as a low-power search radar sweep brushes the carrier. Not a lock, not a direct threat. More like a tap on the shoulder. We see you. The signal is logged. Frequency, duration, source. Nothing else changes. 9 nautical miles. The two lead Russian ships ease in a little closer, shaving down the carrier's forward space. They do not cut across the bow. They do not force an emergency turn. They simply remain there, shaping the water ahead of her. The helm does not move. On the flight deck, the hold signal remains in place. Aircraft stay chained down. Pilots sit in their cockpits, oxygen flowing, eyes fixed ahead. Everyone understands how quickly this could break in either direction, and no one hurries the moment. Now, all 8 ships fully define the space around the carrier. The formation is balanced, disciplined, practiced. Nothing about it feels emotional. This is procedure, deliberate and cold. Inside CIC, the closest point of approach updates again. Closer, too close for comfort. Still legal, still manageable. 8 nautical miles. The Russian ships make another set of adjustments. Tiny turns, fractions of degrees, just enough to tighten the net without fully closing it. They are testing reactions, not chasing collision. The carrier gives them nothing. No turn, no speed change, no radio challenge. This is not hesitation. It is control. At 7 nautical miles, one Russian ship turns just enough for its main gun to come more clearly into view. The weapon stays inactive. The message is meant to be seen, not fired. The moment is logged. The carrier's escorts remain ready, weapons covered, sensors alert. Everything is unfolding in full view. This is pressure built with precision, not brute force. 6 nautical miles. Now the space is compressed. Any sudden turn would send consequences through the formation in seconds. Any mistake would be seen by satellites, aircraft, and analysts watching from far beyond the horizon. The carrier continues straight through the center of the trap. Not aggressive, not yielding, unchanged. No words pass between the ships. No flags are raised. No horns break the silence. Only steel, sea, and intent drawing tighter with every minute, while one question hangs over the water. Who moves first? At 6 nautical miles, the picture steadies, not because the pressure fades, but because the answer has already started to unfold. No announcement is made, no alarm sounds. The carrier does not alter course or speed. From the outside, nothing seems different. But below deck, the response is already in motion. Quiet, layered, intentional. Inside the Combat Information Center, new tracks appear above the formation. Not fresh contacts, but assets already in the air, now shifting position. Their transponders remain dark. Their presence is suggested, not declared. Below, a helicopter crew finally receives the signal it has been waiting for. Rotors spread into place, engines rise to power. The deck crew moves with sharp, practiced efficiency, every motion purposeful, nothing wasted. The helicopter lifts smoothly off the deck and settles low over the water, nose aimed toward the narrowing corridor ahead. No dramatic climb, no sudden turn, just calm, steady forward motion. The Russian ships keep their formation as the aircraft approaches. At first, there is no visible response. Then small signs begin to appear. Heads turn along the decks. Courses are checked by the slightest margins. Speeds shift just enough to register without disrupting alignment. This is not force being displayed. It is awareness being made visible. Back in CIC, the electronic warfare team shifts from passive collection to focused observation. No jamming, no interference. Just careful, disciplined listening. A second low-power radar sweep brushes across the carrier. Again, not a lock. Again, recorded. The pattern is now clear. The data suggests the same thing, caution mixed with curiosity. The carrier's escorts adjust their positions by yards rather than miles. The movement is almost invisible from the outside, but unmistakable on the tactical display. Lanes begin to open, angles begin to change. The geometry shifts without breaking apart. This is pressure answered without confrontation. 5 nautical miles. The helicopter holds a steady altitude just above the wave tops, moving along the inner edge of the Russian formation. It does not cut across bows. It does not station itself over decks. It simply remains where it cannot be ignored. Close enough to matter, far enough to remain professional. Sensors continue scanning. Cameras continue recording. Every second is marked. On the Russian ships, sailors gather near the rails. Binoculars follow the aircraft. One gun mount twitches, then stops. No elevation, no aiming, just a movement, then stillness. Inside CIC, a quiet understanding passes between the watch officers. They are reacting. The carrier remains the fixed point in the equation. 4 nautical miles. One Russian ship on the port side eases back by half a knot, so slightly that it is nearly impossible to notice. Moments later, a ship on the opposite flank mirrors the same reduction. The symmetry begins to crack. Not enough to call it withdrawal. Enough to show reconsideration. The helicopter slides farther forward, holding position just ahead of the carrier's bow. Inside the corridor, the Russian ships had tried to shape. It does not block the path. It simply watches. The escorts remain spread wide, silent, and steady, feeding the same picture into the same network. Every platform sees what the others see. No single ship carries this moment by itself. This is control at the system level. 3.5 nautical miles. The Russian formation hesitates. It does not stop. It does not turn away. But it also does not tighten any further. The inward drift pauses. Small rudder corrections ripple through the line as each ship works to maintain spacing without closing the gap anymore. In CIC, the closest point of approach updates again. Wider. Not by much, but enough to matter. The carrier continues ahead, unwavering. No flares, no warnings, no raised voices, only presence, layered and patient. The helicopter banks slightly, giving every ship in the formation a clear view of its profile. No visible weapons hang from it. None are needed. Its strength lies in what it sees and what it records. Every moment it remains, there adds more weight to the encounter. The Russian guns stay inactive. Their radars remain controlled. The silence never breaks. This is the turning point. Pressure has met resistance, not through impact, but through discipline. One side is no longer driving the equation forward. The net that had been closing now simply holds, and in that pause, the balance starts to change. The formation does not fall apart. It loosens. The shift is subtle enough that an untrained eye might miss it entirely. No abrupt turns, no sharp loss of speed, only small, deliberate corrections moving through the Russian line, one after another. Inside the Combat Information Center, the change is immediate. Track spacing widens by tens of yards. Speed differences appear where before there were none. Vectors that had been converging now begin to hold their distance. The closest point of approach updates once more. Wider again, still close. No longer closing. At 3 nautical miles, the geometry that had defined containment begins to weaken. One Russian ship on the starboard side drifts off its line by a single degree. Another adjusts too late, overshoots slightly, then corrects. The symmetry is broken now, not dramatically, but unmistakably. The helicopter remains exactly where it is, steady and visible, its sensors unblinking. It does not chase the change. It does not need to. The record has already been made. From the bridge of the carrier, the horizon still looks unchanged. Calm sea, clear sky. Nothing in sight suggests that the balance has shifted, but the math says otherwise. The carrier holds its course. The escorts keep station, neither moving in nor falling back. Their presence stays constant, reassuring, patient. They do not force the moment. They allow it to unfold. 2.5 nautical miles. The lead Russian ship cuts speed again, this time by more than a fraction. Its wake softens and spreads wider behind it. Seconds later, a second ship mirrors the move. Now the adjustment is impossible to miss. Still, no one speaks over the radio. No signal is exchanged. The decision is being made in silence. In CIC, the watch officer marks the exact time. The moment pressure stopped increasing, the moment intent shifted from compression to preservation. Another update flashes across the display. Closest point of approach is now widening at a steady rate. The helicopter makes one slow, deliberate bank, then settles back into its parallel track. It does not push in closer, it does not pull away. At this stage, its presence alone is enough. At 2 nautical miles, the Russian formation no longer controls a corridor. Openings appear where there had been none. The aft ships begin drifting outward, creating space behind the carrier instead of closing it off. This is not a retreat. It is a deliberate disengagement, and that distinction matters. Retreat is reactive. Disengagement is a choice. The carrier moves through the center of the loosening formation without changing a thing. It does not rush into the opening. It does not try to exploit the shift. It simply continues. The sea stays flat. The air stays still. Only the wakes reveal what is changing. One Russian ship slips out of alignment by a full degree, then a second does the same. Another follows, widening the arc. The net that had once wrapped around the carrier now stretches thin, its tension slowly gone. Inside CIC, no one celebrates. No one exhales in relief. This is not triumph. It is resolution. The helicopter begins a gradual climb, gaining just enough altitude to signal that its part in the moment is ending. It remains visible, but it no longer dominates the scene. The Russian ships answer in kind, making small course adjustments that increase separation without looking like a retreat. No flags come down, no messages are sent, no statements are made. On the flight deck, the signal goes out to prepare for normal operations to resume. The chains stay on for the moment, but the mood shifts. Pilots loosen slightly in their seats, hands still on the throttles. Deck crews start moving again, calm and methodical, 2 nautical miles. The lead Russian ship alters course away from the carrier's bow. Not sharply, just enough to remove itself from the forward arc. Another ship follows, then another. The sequence unfolds without drama, without urgency. In CIC, the picture clears. All 8 tracks remain on screen, but none are converging now. Every one of them is slowly moving away. The carrier passes through water that had been denied only minutes earlier, its route now open. The escorts hold their lines, preserving separation, preserving clarity. The moment stretches, then slips away. This is how it ends, not with a forced turn under pressure. Not with a public declaration, just with a quiet recognition that the calculation has changed. The Russian ships do not run. They choose to disengage. And the carrier never changes course to make them. The carrier never looks back. As the distance opens, the Russian warships remain visible first on radar, then on the horizon, then only as fading symbols near the edge of the tactical display. Their courses separate gradually, disciplined even in departure. No sudden turns, no pursuit, just empty space returning to the sea. On the flight deck, routine takes over again. Chains come off, hands signal, engines spool up, one aircraft inches forward, then another. The rhythm of normal operations returns without ceremony. What had paused now continues as though nothing unusual had interrupted it. Below decks, the logs are completed. Every bearing shift, every speed change, every radar sweep. Nothing is dramatized, nothing is editorialized. The record stands on its own. Inside the Combat Information Center, the ship eases from heightened readiness back to watch posture. Screens remain active, sensors stay alert. But the pressure is gone. The picture is clean again. The helicopter returns to the deck, settling into place as its rotors slow. No applause follows, no commentary. The crew unstraps and moves on to the next task. The footage it gathered is already archived, time-coded, and stored across multiple systems. It may never be made public. It does not have to be. The escorts quietly slide back into their standard screen, spacing restored to doctrine, their role unchanged. They never moved to confront. They never needed to. This is what control looks like. Out across the water, the Russian ships continue at a distance. Their formation loosens even more, no longer arranged around the carrier. They are still there, but they are no longer shaping the space around it. The encounter is over, not because one side claimed a victory, but because nothing further needed to happen. The carrier continues along its planned track, speed steady, heading unchanged. To anyone watching from far away, it is just another gray warship crossing an empty sea. But inside the ship, the meaning is clear without anyone needing to say it out loud. 8 warships closed in, no shots were fired, no course was changed. The result was not determined by weapons alone. It was decided by posture, timing, and restraint. By a system that did not rush, did not overreact, and did not surrender control of the moment. This is not the kind of encounter that dominates headlines. There are no blasts, no damage assessments, no official speeches. And yet it will be studied closely, not for what happened, but for what never happened. The data will be reviewed. The formations will be examined. The key decisions will be broken down by officers and analysts who measure outcomes in margins, seconds, and distances. Every silent choice will be weighed against every option that was left untouched. Because this is how naval power often works in the modern era. Not always through action, but through the discipline to keep action in reserve. The sea returns to normal. The horizon stretches wide and empty once again. The carrier moves on unchanged, its wake fading into blue water behind it. Somewhere beyond that horizon, 8 warships continue their patrols after testing a boundary and finding it still intact. No flags lowered, no words exchanged. Only a quiet understanding carried off across open water. 8 warships closed in. Then this happened.